Previously on Magoosh Medrek.
Well, if there was a werewolf here, I'd just give him the business and be done with it. First, you cloak him over the head with the negotiator. Next comes prairie fire like in the schoolyard. Prairie fire! Then we bash the bishop.
Bash the bishop, like...
Not like that, you horn dog! I mean, you gotta kick that werewolf right where it counts, downstairs in the basement.
Oh, you just kicked a werewolf in the balls.
Then comes die Nase im Buch.
The nose in the book?
And now, we finish him off.
1885. An age of emerging opulence for Europe is dawning as science and industry draw her population centers towards a new and promising century. But in the untamed forests of the East lurk monsters that hunger for violence as they gorge themselves on terror and innocent blood. One man can be counted on to fight back the creatures of the night, and his name is Magoosh Medrek, Vampire Hunter. A resounding hollow boom reverberated around the clearing, and the werewolf's eyes rolled up in its head. It collapsed forward, rear haunches in the air, forepaws uselessly clutching its injured nose, and then it contacted the earth face first, laying there gasping for breath.
You gotta slam that book hard enough to make pain the only game in town, yeah? And then you can bring out the banda.
Ooh, he does not look good.
Oh, absolutely not. You can stop that right this instant. If you ever are unlucky enough to actually meet a werewolf out there...
Magoosh abruptly turned and absently gestured to the empty clearing behind him, surveying his surroundings and completely neglecting to look down at the now pitiful creature, which lay in a heap, shaking and drooling, and thus missing it entirely. He turned back.
A moment's pity will be more than enough for that dastard to be ripping your throat out, yeah? Now, I do applaud your imagination, however. If we were actually giving the business to a werewolf, yeah, he would not be looking so good by this time. Now, give me the banda.
The vampire hunter casually tossed his doctor's bag onto the ground in front of the boy and then extended his hand out, palm up as a surgeon asking for a surgical tool. Otto hesitated for just one moment, and then made up his young mind that he might as well go along with the proceedings once and for all, because despite all odds being against him having made it this far, he was still alive and bearing witness to what could only be described as an extraordinary series of events. The plight of the village, the dead girls, his missing sister, all of it had faded to the background in the boy's wonder. Otto Schmendrick reached into the black leather bag, having no idea what a bander looked like, but he enthusiastically seized the first thing that caught his eye, a strange-looking pistol with a long, skinny muzzle and a large bulb at the other end. He handed this to his mentor.
Right. Now,
He stopped mid-sentence and looked at the object in his hand, frowning.
I said the banda, not the infrared coagulator. That's for vampires.
Magoosh paused for a moment, and then a thoughtful gaze crossed his face.
I suppose that you could use an infrared coagulator on a werewolf. Yeah, why not? But, nah, that's just ridiculous.
He scratched his temple pensively with the tip of the coagulator.
Besides, what would all the other vampire hunters think? You'd be a laughingstock.
And he tossed the weapon back to the bewildered Schmendrick with a look of amused reproach. Otto dropped it back into the bag and paused to look at his options. There was a wide array of strange-looking contraptions in the bag, which was a chaotic mad scientist's workshop in miniature. A pair of field goggles that looked into curved pipes to look behind the wearer. They were labeled as bizarre noculars. Assorted glass ampoules filled with what looked to be softly glowing water. A small crossbow with yellowed tubes attached to it. What appeared to be half a dozen pieces of red meat, ribeyes from the look of them. Various flint and steels, including something labeled wham-pyre, that looked like a hybrid between a small roque mallet and a barbecue lighter. Not that these descriptions would have meant anything to Otto Schmendrick. They are provided here just for you, dear listener. That is how much I care. Then the boy's eyes fell upon another kind of pistol, this one long and thin, its head and body tilted at a 45-degree angle bend. One side was attached to a small bag that, had Otto been more worldly, he would have possibly recognized as being related to bagpipes. The other end had a small circular head with metallic thread wrapped around it. A series of small arms worked their way down to a trigger on the bag side. Otto seized it and handed it to the waiting Magoosh.
Yeah? Yeah, that's the ticket. Good.
Still keeping his gaze on Otto, Magoosh moved 2 steps closer to the murderous beast, now brought low. He bent down on his hunkers and motioned for Otto to do the same. He held up the bander in the gathering gloom.
Now, imagine there's a werewolf lying in a heap right here, and you've just bashed the bishop. This is the last step. The bag of the bander goes under your arm, you squeeze it, and it creates a vacuum in the bag.
Vacuum?
Yeah, vacuum. It sucks.
Oh, vacuum.
Yeah, that's what I said. Anyway, the tip sucks in the biggest hemorrhoid, and then the fireworks begin.
Otto Schmendrick almost stopped him. In spite of all his fear and heavy feelings of helplessness, the reality of executing a living being in cold blood, albeit a murderous monster, didn't sit well with him. This almost allowed mercy to win the day, but Otto forced himself not to see the pathetic creature that was suffering before him, having been bested by an obviously superior predator whose cunning and killer instinct had made short work of the villain. No, Otto forced himself to see the cemetery hill in his village, and the endless procession of fathers who had laid to rest the tattered remains of their daughters, never to see them again, his own father likely now a member of that company. In fact, though Magoosh was adamantly against the culprit of their misfortune being a werewolf, a stance which had to be a ruse, Otto now had a small glimmer of hope that perhaps all would turn out okay. He wasn't sure if he would ever see his sister again or if she had become this beast's last meal. But he steeled himself and asked the question he knew would bring about the end.
What do you mean by fireworks?
Magoosh slowly turned his gaze to Otto, and the boy knew he had signed the werewolf's death warrant.
Well, the bander is designed to remove hemorrhoids by ligating them, strangling the blood flow and making them fall off, yeah? I adapted this to use very fine silver thread. Werewolves are allergic to silver, everybody knows this. So, you capture the main hemorrhoid,
and the vampire hunter abruptly squeezed the bag end of the bander, drawing forth a faint hissing sound as the vacuum was created. He then extended the bander, almost instinctively from Otto's view, to the exposed posterior in front of him, never taking his eyes from the boy, and with a comedic thwump sound, the large hemorrhoid was sucked into the beak of the weapon.
At this point, you gotta be ready, because as soon as you pull this trigger, the silver thread is gonna wrap itself around the hemorrhoid, and it's gonna cause an allergic reaction. Make sure the negotiator's nearby.
Magoosh pulled the trigger on the bander, and the tip of the barrel retracted, applying a small silver tourniquet around the base of the dangling hemorrhoid. Magoosh slid open a tiny panel near the bander's bag, equalizing the internal pressure and allowing the seized pocket of skin and veins to slide loose from its trap. Magoosh stepped back, counting aloud.
1, 2, 3...
Acrid smoke began to pour from the monster's rectal area as the silver fused itself to flesh and the hemorrhoid immediately started filling with blood. On second thought, no. Filling is not the right word. It began to hemorrhage. Like a water balloon attached to a garden hose with the spigot then cranked to maximum flow by some overzealous fourth grader on the first day of summer vacation, blood began to pour into the angry hemorrhoid, stretching it, swelling it, distending it, rendering skin and fur quickly translucent, then transparent, a membranous window into a sea of splashing scarlet.
4, 5, 6!
First a golf ball, then a baseball. Bigger and bigger it grew, an ever-changing grotesque tour of sporting goods. Rugby ball, bowling ball, basketball, then an abrupt departure from the wide world of sports, hurtling into the gastronomic realm of fruit, where it grew to the size of a watermelon.
7, 8, here we go!
Magoosh raised the negotiator high over his head. Otto quickly put 2 and 2 together and felt sick to his stomach. He could see what was coming and could not bring himself to look away.
9, 10!
With all the strength and finesse of a strong man in the midway of a carnival demonstrating his prowess at ringing the bell atop the strength tester, Magoosh brought down the negotiator onto the undulating sack of blood with all his might, eyes squeezed closed in concentration, a blood-curdling cry of triumph escaping his lips. The reaction was horrific and immediate. The impact of the negotiator's weighted head on the supernaturally engorged hemorrhoid drove a torrential tidal wave of blood back through the creature's vascular system, traumatizing as it went, which caused an involuntary body roll, the werewolf's prone form straightening up and falling again like a rag doll in an earthquake. As the breath was driven from its lungs, the werewolf let out a howl of intense pain and defeat. A terminal death rattle with the volume cranked up to 11. However, what would haunt Otto's dreams for the rest of his life were the creature's eyes. The werewolf's formerly malevolent eyes were violently blown out of its head. Rocketing up and over the trees at a fantastic speed, propelled by twin crimson geysers of blood which spurted all the way to the other side of the clearing. Just like a tsunami pulls with it all the debris that has been collected along its destructive path, so did the internal flood bring with it veins and viscera, mucus and muscle partially liquefied, and the internal was made external through pulverized eye sockets, the reverse pressure of the sudden void driving the twitching body of the werewolf into the earth with the force of a steam engine. A small crater in the shape of a man-wolf was punched into the ground, stinking steam rising from the depression as the corpse gurgled and slowly bled out. Otto had never witnessed such devastation before and was deeply shaken, but at the same time, he felt relieved. The killing moon would come no more, and even if he was never to see his dear Anya again in this life, he felt that this was a fitting legacy to her memory. Others would need not suffer as she no doubt had been forced to, and as Otto followed the airborne eyes as they disappeared into the distance, he heard Magoosh say from far away,
Well, that was fun. And that's how it would go down. But like I said, I really don't think you ever have to worry about werewolves here. Too far south.
The eyes plummeted soundlessly beneath the canopy of the trees far and away off, and suddenly a huge plume of crows took flight, cawing and screeching like banshees, screaming out their displeasure at being disturbed, the sound audible even from that distance. Magoosh heard the cacophony and turned to see the mass of black feathers and shiny eyes blot out the dark sky, black on gray.
Hey, Schatzi, didn't you say that your sister was taken by birds?
Anya!
Otto Schmendrick's eyes glazed over and he started to run across the clearing, but Magoosh grabbed him and pulled him back.
We can go and investigate, but you gotta stay close to me. The sun has set, and if you go running off again, you'll only get yourself killed. Come on.
Anya. Anya, no, I'm sorry.
Magoosh sighed and took a small step back, looking Otto up and down. He calmly took a leather glove out of his pocket and weighed it carefully. Then he said,
Hey, you gotta calm down before we can go, yeah?
Anya, I'm so sorry. It's all my fault. Anya, I was just trying to keep you safe. Anya,
Okay,
I'm sorry.
have it your way.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
and with that he slapped the boy across the face with the glove. Otto was shocked into silence, and then Magoosh slapped him again. And again. And again.
Calm! You gotta calm down! Calm! Calm! Are you calm yet?
I'm calm.
Otto yelled, roughly pushing the vampire hunter away from him.
Okay, now you're with me. Good.
Magoosh grabbed the boy's shirt and pulled him close, gazing into his eyes with a fierce intensity that immediately sobered Otto.
Playtime's over, boys, so listen to me very carefully. If you lose your head in these woods for even a moment, you're done for. Always at the ready. Now, come on.
Magoosh took a moment to gather his effects and then stepped over the smoking crater without a glance askance.
Belmont! Oh, there you are. Oh, los geht's.
Belmont lumbered after Magoosh and Otto. The trio walked across the clearing, following the sounds of avian outrage, Magoosh expounding on the finer points of survival in the haunted woods, while the bewildered Otto Schmendrick nodded and did his best to keep up. And it is here, dear listener, that we will pull back and let them move on. I can say that Anya was found alive, safely hidden away in a nest that shared a close proximity to the charnel den of the deadly werewolf that would terrorize the little village no more. The story of that night, what happened to Anya, and just how the children returned to the village the next morning to a hero's welcome, is a tale for another time. But in this moment, as we lose sight of the adventurers beneath the twisted trees of the old west woods, all is well, thanks to Magoosh Medrek, Vampire Hunter.
The Douche Medrek What a Buffoon was conceived, written, performed, and produced by me, Sasha Mereu.
What? That's not my name.
Additional voices this week for that douche lame sauce were provided by the incredible Daisy and Eskridge.
Whoa, that's not called for.
The giant douche theme was composed and recorded by gentleman and scholar Danny Tuggle.
I demand that you cease and desist this very instant.
And additional sound effects were provided by Zapsplat.com and Pixabay.com, respectively. P.S. Magoosh is a douche.
Oh, I get it. You're angry about something. What is it?
What is it? I'm angry at you.
At me? Why on earth would you be angry at me?
You had me arrested last week.
Oh, yeah, that.
And then committed to the booby hatch. Not a mental facility, not a hospital for psychological evaluation. The booby hatch, complete with padded walls and a straitjacket, and the orderlies even tried to catch me with giant nets as I made my escape. But you know what? It's okay. Hey, here's a joke. Knock, knock.
Who's that?
The biggest douche in the world.
The biggest douche in the world. Who?
You know, all of a sudden, I'm feeling much, much better.
So is there gonna be a season 3, or are you too angry with me?
Nah, I can't stay angry at you. Officially, yes, season 3 is coming soon.
Heiliger Strohsack, what's it gonna be about?
You know I'm not gonna tell you.
Come on, Schatzi, season 3. Season 3. Season 3. Mojitos. 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 Mojitos.
Stay tuned for season 3.
Los Gates.
Okay, is he gone? All right. While Magoosh is out looking for mojitos, I just wanted to do a quick postscript here. Big shout out to Danny Tuggle. He is not only the composer of the Magoosh theme and all the music that you've heard, but he also did a huge section of the special effects specifically for this episode. And we're talking about the bander. All of the disgusting, horrible sound effects of all of the body parts slurping, and there were intestines and gurgling and hemorrhoids and all of that stuff. That came out of his brain, and he put that together layer after layer after layer and just knocked it out of the park. So, Danny, thank you so much for your work, and I am excited to see what we come up with for season 3. Thanks for listening.